welcome back. This is episode 3 of the Perkio Pitch, Numbers and Nonsense. To just start off the podcast, today is Tuesday, June 16th. Man, time is flying, man. Time is flying. This is actually coming out a little quicker than the last gap between episode 1 and 2. A few things have changed in baseball, but we actually have a few interesting topics today. I actually have some news to announce at the end of this, and also maybe a little tease. Wink, wink. But yeah, with that said, we're going to get into it right away. Super quick AL, NL rundown. You know, that's always going to be a way to start off, I think, each show, just because, you know, things are constantly changing in baseball. But this time, a few things have changed. Also, some sad news for Guardians fans and Royals fans, losing 2 guys to the same injury. We'll get into that a little bit, but we're going to start with just talking about the AL. So right now, the AL, the one thing that's changed the most is the White Sox have passed the Cleveland Guardians. First place in the AL Central, beating the Dodgers. Who would have thought the Dodgers would have came in and lost a series to the White Sox? The highlight for the Dodgers over the weekend was definitely Yoshi almost throwing a perfect game. I think he gave up a home run or something like that to give up the game, perfect game, I should say. But yeah, the White Sox have a lot to be proud about. We're actually going to circle back around to the White Sox later. There's a specific player on that team that I think, if you're a baseball fan, a fantasy manager, you know, anyone in general who wants to know more about the game, there's a guy in that bullpen that we need to talk about, but we'll get to that in a sec. But like I said, a few things have changed in the AL. You know, the Guardians lost Jose Ramirez to a hand fracture, and the Royals lost their first baseman, Vinny Pasquantino, to a hand fracture as well. 2 unfortunate injuries. You know, you had a team that's holding on to the first place in the AL Central, and you have a team trying to dig themselves out of it. So this is a prime time for 2 teams in the AL Central, the White Sox and the Tigers, to probably get their fucking shit together. I actually watched the Tigers last night. They hit 3 homers off. Actually, his last name's not pronounced Tang, the pitcher for the Astros. I forgot what the commentator said, but I do not want to butcher it, so I'm going to respectfully say Tang for now. I will get that corrected sooner or later. But yeah, it's the first time Tang's given up 3 home runs on the season in his short career. By the way, that guy does have some good stuff. I think he might be able to be polished to be a starting pitcher, but definitely a bullpen future for the guy. But he gave up 3 homers. Colt Keith had 3 homers last night for the Tigers. Torkelson had 1. But yeah, the Tigers came out on top. Something they really needed. You know, they catch a half game on the Guardians. I don't remember if the White Sox played last night. I don't think they did. But yeah. The Tigers and the White Sox, this is their time to kind of catch it up in the AL Central. Guardians losing Jose. There hasn't been any news on Chase DeLauter yet. I know Martinez got hurt. No word on him just yet. Guardians got the living shit beat out of them. That Saturday game before that Sunday game got postponed. Thank God Almighty that the game was postponed Sunday, because I think the Guardians had a day to kind of catch themselves, catch their breath. You know, really evaluate the situations here, because you just lost your superstar, your bread and butter, your rock of your lineup, and now the guy DeLauter, dude, who's probably one of your more consistent contact hitters on the team, he goes down too. So this is a big time for Bazzana to step up. Also a big time for the Guardians front office to be like, hey, if we actually do want to go for it this season, which their roster is totally capable of making a deep run in the playoffs, they could add a guy. I mean, the Giants just announced they were doing a fire sale. Give them a call. Pick up Harrison Bader or something. I know he's on a 2-year deal. You're going to have to maybe eat that contract if there's a lockout next year. But, you know, the thing is, for most teams, that would not be a problem. But for the Guardians, they just don't want to pay a guy who might not play a lot next year. It's very frustrating. But, hey, that's how the cookie crumbles. The last time I did a podcast, the Mariners were not first in the division. Now they're first in the division. But, you know, the A's are right there. The A's can hit. Can they get the pitching down? That's the question. You know, it's hard for guys to pitch in a minor league ballpark who are pro hitters. If anyone watched that Vegas series with the A's, they had the Rockies and I believe the Brewers were in town, I mean, the ball was just absolutely flying around the ballpark. And it does that in Sacramento, too. I mean, Nick Kurtz last night hit a ball opposite field homer that just carried. In most parks, it's probably not a home run, but I'll have to fact check that. I'll have to. But, yeah. So right now, the current AL standings are the Yankees, White Sox, Mariners, 1 through 3, leading their divisions. And then the wild card, the Rays, Guardians, and Athletics. Those are your top 6. And honestly, there's some close teams in there. I'm only going to go to the teams that are 4 games out. You got the Rangers 1 game out, the Blue Jays 2 games out, Orioles 2.5 out, you got the Twins 3 out, and the Astros are 4 out. And honestly, an honorable mention because I want to mention that the Red Sox are 12th in the AL, 5.5 games out. Shout out Red Sox. But yeah, you got teams that are catching hot, and I feel like right now is an identity time for teams to figure out really who they are. Bad time for the teams like Guardians to face some scrutiny. So what are they going to do? What are they going to do? That's the question. Now back to the National League. Nothing's still changed in the NL. You still got the Braves, Dodgers, Brewers, top of the NL. That's probably how it's going to be all year. I do not see the Cardinals passing the Brewers. And by the way, Dustin May of the Cardinals last night pitched his ass off, almost threw a no-hitter. Lost his no-hitter on like a shitty infield single. What a kick in the nuts that must fucking feel. As someone who threw a no-hitter in a Little League All-Star tournament, I know how hard it is to throw one. But all kidding aside, yeah, he lost in an infield single. That sucks, but they won the game. I'm sure he would take that all day. I think he ended up throwing a complete game shutout. I think he threw a complete game shutout or a complete game one-run game. But he threw a complete game. Dustin May has found it in St. Louis. You love to see it. That's a guy who, got hurt a lot with the Dodgers. I feel like did get his opportunities with the Dodgers, but I also don't blame the Dodgers for kind of throwing in the towel on him because he was getting hurt. He had some freak injuries. He had that weird fucking throat injury when he swallowed some food and, cut his throat and had to go on the IL. Talk about a guy that could not catch a fucking break. He goes to St. Louis, of all cities. People, only probably go to St. Louis for Cardinals games and barbecue and see that dumbass arch. And that's a good place for a guy. By the way, I like St. Louis. By the way, and then that's a good place for a guy to get his career back on track. The Cardinals were rebuilding. They took him. And right now they're showing they can possibly develop some really good starting pitching. They got a rotation, of a lot of guys who sort of pitch the same, but they're developing them to be major leaguers and good quality major league pitching. And that's the way you start successfully rebranding yourself after a rebuild. The Cardinals are doing just that. After all the shit the St. Louis Cardinals have gotten, they have possibly dug themselves out of it. I don't want to take a victory lap on them yet. I'd never predicted the Cardinals be that good. I should say I don't want to take a victory lap for them yet. They still have a lot to do and a lot to prove, but boy, oh boy, the St. Louis Cardinals look good. Good for them. Seriously, good for them. I may have changed my tune on them a little bit, but I do believe, the Padres and Cardinals, potentially the Phillies. I do think the Phillies, like I said in the last podcast, I think they end up taking the 4th spot. But the one thing I was dead wrong about, I think, in a team that could be re-emerging, if they can get it together at the starting pitching levels, the Cubs. And the Cubs are a team that could take the Cardinals out. Easily could take the Padres out. I said the Phillies, Pirates, and Padres are my teams that get into the playoffs this year. I mean, the Cubs are making a statement, and they're probably going to make me eat shit because, I am going against a high payroll in baseball. I am going against a team that has PCA on their roster who just hit for the fucking cycle. The Cubs are good, and, I was talking a lot of shit on them last week, and I shouldn't say the Cubs are good. Let me backtrack. Maybe the Cubs are pretty good, and that can get you into the playoffs, and a pretty good team can catch hot. A pretty good team has gotten hot before, and has made a deep run in the playoffs. It's happened many times. This would not be a surprise to me. But they have to get better starting pitching. They have to address the starting pitching. Let me elaborate. They have to address the fucking starting pitching. Their starting pitching ERA is terrible. They just got Cabrera back, who pitched really well in Colorado. I'll give them that. Losing Horton hurt. Justin Steele, I don't know the exact time when he's supposed to be coming back. They're just beat up. Matt Boyd was supposed to come back last week. Beat up. But, right now, I'm going to go down to the Red. I'll go down to the Mets. So right now, the current standings are your top 3 teams in the NL are the Braves, Dodgers, Brewers, of course. And then your 4 through 6 seeds, who are the wild card spots right now, are the Cardinals, who are up 2.5 games, the Phillies, who are up 1.5 games on the Padres. So the Phillies are down 1 game to the Cardinals, and then the Padres are holding up that 6th spot. And they're sort of tied, but I believe they own the tiebreaker. They're sort of tied with the Nationals and the Cubs right now with record, but I do believe the Padres own that tiebreaker. So then it goes the Padres, and then the Nationals and Cubs are at 7 and 8, and then a half game back at 9 are the Diamondbacks. In that 10th spot, you have the Marlins 2 back, Pirates 2 back, Reds 3 back, in the Mets 5.5 back. So the last time we spoke, the Mets have now lost a half game. NL still wide open. AL still wide open. I do like how Major League Baseball is putting, 12 teams into the playoffs because it does make it exciting. But it does destroy your trade market because there's a lot of teams in the NL and the AL probably right now who are like the Reds, who are like the Pirates, who are like the Marlins, who are like the D-backs, saying, we're not dead. We're not dead. And teams in the wild card have had success in deep playoff runs because you're playing right off the rip. You still have your timing down. You're still in the routine of playing every day. A lot of times these high seeds, when they have a few days off, a week off, that's a long time in baseball. Football players are adapted to it. Basketball players, in most circumstances, are adapted to it. But baseball, that's hard because you're playing 162 games. Then you're playing, 30 to 40 games in spring. You got your pitchers and catchers reporting. So you're playing baseball from February to late October. Nonstop. So when these guys take a week off, that's a big disruption in habit. And baseball players are the most habit-forming athletes in any sport, in my opinion. And when you disrupt that habit, a lot of these guys hate change and hate disruption of habit, and they choke, or they play rusty, or they're taken to 5 games, and their bullpen's depleted, and they face another hard team in the next round. Playoff baseball is a bitch. And I think it's going to be really exciting this year because, you got a lockout looming. And it's going to be very interesting to see what teams really push all their chips in the middle and go for it. Please, God, let the Guardians be one. They're not going to do it. Sorry, I got a little angry there. But it's interesting. The NL and AL are wide open. But yeah, that's my quick rundown on the state of the AL and NL standings. Like I said, a few things have changed, but I don't want to get too deep into it, and I don't want to be just talking to a mic, saying the same old shit every week, making a podcast 30 minutes about the NL and AL. Sometimes, maybe once a month, we'll get a little deeper into it, but, with just making a quick podcast, with a little quick break in between the last one and now, figured, we don't have to get too deep into it, but I actually want to talk about some few things right now. I got 3 players in Major League Baseball to keep an eye on. And I mentioned that I'd be talking about the White Sox some more. Here is that moment. And also, the 2 other guys we're talking about here play in the AL West. So, first guy I want to talk about is the White Sox reliever Grant Taylor. This guy is a stud. Great fastball. Really good breaking balls. He's getting used in a lot of odd situations for the White Sox right now, going 2 innings or spot starting, pitching in tough jams to get the team out of a hard circumstance. This guy's he's going to be the eventual closer for the White Sox this year. It's just a matter of time. Because I know they got Sir Anthony Dominguez, which is sort of, I feel like you're wasting Grant Taylor, but if they're trying to get Grant Taylor confident and built up to be that guy, I get it. But yeah, Grant Taylor is going to be the closer of the future for the Chicago White Sox. And if not, this is going to be like a Rocco Baldelli situation with the Twins when he had the closer all along and he didn't know how to use them, and did like a thing with Duran when he was probably closing 60 to 70% of the games at one point, and they had like Pagan closing games. The White Sox need to get a grip, and if they're going to make a deep playoff run, they need to get a steady closer, and they have it in Grant Taylor, and sooner or later, hopefully, they'll realize that. I just traded for him in fantasy, too. Quick side note, I got Freddie Peralta, Sonny Gray, Grant Taylor for Kevin Gossman and Colson Montgomery. It's a deep pitching league. I needed to do it. All right, on to the next guy. The other guy to look out for, he had a really weird career up to this point. You know, he had a lot of high hopes. He was playing in an organization with a lot of middle infield competition, outfield competition. He might be having his numbers inflated because he's playing in a Mickey Mouse ballpark in Sacramento. Zach Geloff. If anyone wants to go look at his Baseball Savant page, and a quick side note, I do believe in analytics, I do believe in Baseball Savant, but I also believe in an eye test and things that these stats can't necessarily value with off the chart stuff. You know, is he a good team player? Does he run out bases, etc.? Like, there's so much other than that. Those are just two super quick things that come to mind. But Zach Geloff, the metrics are showing that this guy is having damn near great to elite power, contact, abilities. Again, it could be getting inflated in Sacramento. He's had a lot of chances, and he's been hurt. Very frustrating process for him to get to this point of success, but the guy's on a crazy hitting streak right now. He's hitting the ball really well. You know, I watched him taking that bat last night against Jones from Pittsburgh in the first inning, and he had 100 blown by him on a high-end fastball, which strikes out most people. But the guy then came back late in the game and hit an RBI single. He doesn't get scared. He stays in the box. He has a short, nice, tight stance. Really nice swing. Not a bad fielder. He's a guy the A's are probably like, thank God we were patient with this guy. You know, they got Muncy, they got Wilson. They have Jeff McNeil. They have a lot of guys that can play the infield right now. And, you know, great time for Geloff to continue playing great. He's played so well that they can't take him out of the lineup. He can't. You know, it was weird. The A's were batting Nick Wilson fourth last night. Probably not who I would bat cleanup. You know, I'd probably bat him second, sixth, or anywhere 7, 8, or 9 right now. And Wilson's a great contact player, but Geloff is just hitting too well, in my opinion. I think he's going to maybe slide into that cleanup role. Even if he's not going to hit 30 home runs a year, you know, the way the A's are kind of styling their lineup, it would make sense for them to bat Geloff fourth. He wouldn't bat fourth on my team, but the way the A's are kind of addressing their lineup, Geloff could be getting some cleanup time. But yeah, that's another guy to look out for. My third guy to look out for is actually a guy I've met a few times. I'm not just mentioning him here because I know him. I'm not being biased. But he actually used to work out in the baseball facility I used to run. Dominic Canzone. He's sort of running into a platoon, situation with the Mariners. But the guy can hit. The metrics show he can hit. The guy hit in Ohio State. The guy hit in the minors when he was playing in Vegas. The guy, his first career home run was off, I believe, Spencer Strider. This is when Strider was like still Spencer Strider, really good. I mean, he was good this year before he got hurt too, but this was the elite Spencer Strider. You know, Dom's a really nice guy. Worked hard. I've watched his swing up close and personal when he was using our Hit Tracks machine and batting cages. The guy has a beautiful stroke, beautiful swing, very powerful. And the thing that surprises me is, like, when I stood next to him, he's like my size. He's just in way better shape. You know, he's not a fat fucking bowling ball like me. But the guy's in really good shape, good player, not a terrible fielder. I know in Arizona he was training to play first base, and I was watching him train to play first base all the time. But, you know, when he got traded for Paul Sewald, right away, they're like, hey, you're not in our first base plans here. You get Josh Naylor and Luke Raley. That's understandable. I don't know if they had Carlos Santana on the team. I don't know, but with that said, Dom Canzone, the guy can hit. He's hitting really well right now. He has some really nice pop, and he's actually getting results in Seattle, which is actually a hard place to even hit home runs. It's definitely a pitcher's park. The ball doesn't really carry there because of that Seattle air. But Dom Canzone. So even if you're fantasy guys, baseball fans, or just need someone to watch out for, Grant Taylor, Zach Geloff, and Dominic Canzone. Those are my three guys that I would absolutely look out for. Absolutely look out for. And also, there's one more little quick story I want to talk about because I was talking about DBAT. That's where I used to work. I used to be a general manager of a place called DBAT. It's a baseball training facility. It's a franchise all around the world. This is not a DBAT plug. I'm just more so stating my credentials. But a guy used to come in there. His name was Joe Boyle. And big dude. This is when he was with the Reds before he got traded. Big, but he was a big guy. He was playing AAA baseball in Dayton, Ohio. And I don't know if he was like with a girl or his connection to the Northeast Ohio area, but he would come in a couple times, use our facility, throw the ball around with a few of our staff members. Really nice guy. Dude throws a fucking rocket. Like, this dude is like the Iron Giant from like the movie, The Iron Giant. This guy's like an Iron Giant up there swinging a tree around and just throwing it at the plate. But the question is, where's the ball going, or AKA, where's the tree going? It's one of those circumstances. But the guy can hit. The guy can pitch. He's showing that. But his inconsistency of throwing strikes is what's killing him. But there's times he looks really good. When he was with the A's, I remember I picked him up in an emergency fantasy baseball moment. And he was throwing a no-hitter against the Angels. And, man, what a game. That was like 3 years ago. But he's bounced around. He's been with the A's, the Red system, and the Rays, who, are a pitching factory. And where I'm going with this is the Rays and Joe Boyle are a perfect match. And if there's any Rays fans who ever do listen to this, I do think Joe Boyle is going to be an absolutely effective pitcher for you guys in somehow, some way. If that's out of the bullpen, starting pitching, bulk relief, he could easily do one of those three things in the big leagues. But what I'm trying to get to is, he actually was talking to me about the throwing program a lot of major league teams are doing now. The Rays are doing this. When he was with the Reds, the Reds were allowing him to do this, and the Reds seem to be a pretty cool team in regards to allowing guys to really be who they want and how they want to train. I mean, they let Trevor Bauer do it when they had Bauer. They let Joe Boyle do this when they had Boyle. So they allow a lot of guys to kind of do their thing. So what Boyle did, and what a lot of teams are doing, and the Rays specifically do this, and this is really explaining a lot of arm injuries, and really what I'm getting into is Tommy John here, and why I think arm injuries are happening. Even though I don't know if Joe Boyle's had it, but it would not shock me if he gets it eventually for what his throwing program is. Sorry, Joe Boyle, if you're listening to this. But what they do is, a lot of pitchers are not doing a lot of weightlifting anymore, and they don't do a lot of long toss anymore. They don't do a lot of arm routines that a lot of these pitchers in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when baseball's been around as long as it has, guys threw all the time. Nolan Ryan, constant long toss, weightlifting. And Nolan Ryan is a good example, but there's literally almost all those guys in the Nolan Ryan era. Yeah, they pitched through injuries, but they weren't so frequent as they are now, and guys would guaranteed most starting pitchers would have a 4 ERA, but they'd go 200 innings. But Boyle is one of those guys, and a lot of pitchers, Blake Snell's a guy like this. I think his name's Christian Scott with the Mets. He's another guy like this who just got hurt. Yeah. Who throw 100% 100% of the time. They want to get 100% spin 100% of the time. And it's causing a lot of arm injuries because to get these results, to be able to throw 100%, 100% of the time, you cannot lift weights. You cannot do long toss as much. You can't do these arm routines and these arm cares to keep your arm active throughout a whole season. That's why pitchers are going 160 to 180 innings 150 to 160 innings now, because they're told to go 100% of the time, and then they have bulk relief or other relievers, and relievers are now becoming like running backs in the NFL. They're going to have a peak few years, and they want to get into a situation of throwing 100% of the time because they can get max effort out of a bullpen, get a guy who throws 100. He has a pretty good secondary pitch. You want him to go bulk relief, 2 to 4 innings, etc. They can do that, but they're going to get worn out if they can't do these procedures and these arm care routines. And really what I'm trying to say is Boyle got into saying, he doesn't do all these things. In the off seasons he does, of course, but throughout the season, a lot of guys don't lift weights as much. The reason why is I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not a medical expert, but it actually slows something down in your nerve system, which allows you to not throw as hard. And that's why a lot of these guys are not lifting and throwing as far anymore, because they want to save 100% juice in the tank. And now these guys are throwing so well and throwing so hard at max effort, hitters have to create a new swing. Hit doctor's a prime example. They have to do these new swings. And by the way, I'm not a huge hit doctor fan. I'm just saying a lot of guys are doing hit doctor stuff. A lot of these guys are creating a whole new swing, and they go, wow, it's so much harder now to rack up 2 or 3, 4 hits in a row to score 2 runs, when let's just try to hit home runs and try to hit this hard pitching. Kyle Schwarber is a prime example. Look at team batting averages. Prime examples. These guys are trying to lift the ball because it's already so hard to hit this new style of pitching, so guys are striking out more. Guys are not hitting the ball as hard anymore. Well, guys are hitting the ball as hard, but not as often. You're seeing so much more change in baseball because of the way guys are pitching and guys are hitting now. And this all started, and it was like a light bulb in my head when Joe Boyle was explaining this to me. And, I put 2 and 2 together. This is more of a theory, by the way, people. But yeah, that's my Joe Boyle story. Shout out Joe Boyle. I don't blame you for the league of this. I don't blame you for the league kind of taking a shit, Joe. I don't. I'm just stating a fact that I think is happening because of what you told me at DBAT. Arm injuries are happening more. These guys are throwing great at 100% effort. It's harder to hit it, and it's now leading to more home runs and less batting average and less hits per game. And we're seeing more walks. Like you'll see, like Rhys Hoskins right now with Cleveland's hitting it under 200, and he has like a 360 on-base percentage. That's so lopsided. And he's a guy who lofts the ball. Rhys Hoskins. All right, I got 2 more things here. We're going to wrap up the podcast. I actually got another Paul story. So another Paul fact. Like I said, the last episode, I will start getting random kind of cool stories and cool little facts about some weird baseball stories. And this one comes to mind specifically. We're going to go all the way back into San Diego, as Ron Burgundy would say, San Diego in 1982. Anytime I get a Lasorda story and it involves baseball drama, I want it. Lasorda is one of my favorite, probably baseball personalities of all time. I'm so jealous he never coached the Cleveland Indians / Guardians. But the Dodgers got him. So this story is going to involve a guy named, let's see, it's very French here, and I never taken French my whole life. And you're going to quickly learn in this podcast, I'm fucking stupid, and I'm awful with names and pronunciations, but we're going to go for it here. His last name was Beauvoir. And he played for the San Diego Padres. Kurt Beauvoir. Quick thing about him was he was from Florida. He's now 80 years old. His career batting average was .236, 27 career home runs, 275 runs batted in. Played for quite a bit, 13 seasons in the bigs. But we're going to now talk about this beef. So quick rundown was, in 1982, the Padres and Dodgers were playing each other. And I'm saying this off the top of my head, and I'm going to read a quote. the Padres and Dodgers were playing each other, and a player hit a home run. And then our Frenchman here, the guy with the super French name, Bavois, then batted and was hit and drilled by a pitch. And he was not happy. He was pissed. He thought it was intentional. So here is the exact quote from our Frenchman after the game in regards to Lasorda. Very Italian, by the way. Here we go. This is what he said about Lasorda. They ought to find that little fat Italian too. He ordered it. Meaning they need to retaliate and get Lasorda. And then Lasorda drops maybe one of the best quotes ever. Here we go. Tell you what I think about it. I think that is very, very bad for that man to make an accusation like that. That is terrible. I've never, ever, since I've managed, ever told a pitcher to throw at anybody. Nor will I ever. And if I ever did, I certainly wouldn't make him throw at a fucking 130 hitter like Bavois. Alright, and it gets better here, guys. Then he proceeded to say, he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a fucking boat. And I guarantee you this. When I pitch, and I was going to pitch against a fucking team that had guys like him, I'd send a fucking limousine to get that cocksucker to make sure he was in the motherfucking lineup, because I'd kick that cocksucker's ass any fucking day of the week. He's a fucking motherfucker big mouth, I'll tell you that. What a line. What a statement to make against a 130 hitter. That's a Hall of Famer going at a guy who's a no-namer, accusing to be hit on purpose. A 130 hitter at the time, trying to make a statement, pump up the team, just got absolutely railed. Absolutely railed by Lasorda. But I did say we had two more things. We're on the last thing here. Here at Brady Ballers, we have an exciting thing to announce. But a little tease too. So what I'm about to give away, this podcast will be doing the same thing potentially in the future. Wink, wink. We will be doing some fun giveaways too to our fans, our listeners, our followers, all on social media platforms. But right now, the Brady Ballers has been putting out some fun bets with our fan groups, our fan base, our followers. So right now, we have a cool announcement giveaway jersey to one of our followers here for Brady Ballers. Picked by the man himself who runs Brady Ballers. He wanted me to announce that at Mr. Skims818 on X, also known as Twitter, is our winner, and he will be getting a message from our follower, our leader at Brady Ballers about his winnings, and I hope he does see this. I hope I actually get a chance to have him on the show someday just to hear about his Brady Ballers fandom. But with that said, that is our show. That is all I got for you. Episode 4 might come out in a week. Again, I do this week to week, so I might look like a dumb shit. The Cubs might make me look stupid in 2 weeks. Who knows? I don't know. I've looked stupid in plenty of situations before, so I wouldn't be shocked if I look stupid a week from now, because the Tigers might make a comeback. The Guardians might be out of it, and the White Sox are running away with a division. Who knows? Who knows? But that's all I got. Thank you so much. Goodbye for now. Peace.